Browsing the Reddit forums is a wonderful way to kill a few hours by falling down the rabbit hole of discussion on pretty much any topic interest you can think of. The wrestling-related subreddits such as r2circle are no different, and they've been used quite prominently by leakers in the past, intent on letting wrestling fans know secrets they're not supposed to. One of the more infamous of these Reddit leakers was user Dolphins1925, whose story ended up causing a lot of controversy among the community and is still a divisive topic of discussion to this very day. So be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell, because today we're going to look at a person who predicted every single pay-per-view correctly. Let's dive into the strange and fascinating tale of Dolphins1925. The mystery user first appeared on r2circle subreddit back in 2013, correctly predicting the results of the upcoming Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. The following month at WrestleMania 29, he would do the same again, this time posting his reasoning for spoiling the results. He claimed that while he did not work for the WWE, he did have insider knowledge coming from an unspecified source and would be revealing all the results of WWE pay-per-views ahead of time for the foreseeable future, as he was sick of Vince and his antics. He specified that these were not predictions, but full spoilers, and that he would never knowingly post any false ones. Dolphins1925 appeared to be under the belief that WWE needed to tighten up the integrity of their product, and by posting the results ahead of time, he was showing the company that they weren't invincible and needed to take further precautions against this kind of thing happening in the future. The user was hoping to get Vince McMahon's attention by doing this, and wanted his actions to cause some waves within the company. Some of course were hesitant to believe that he had insider knowledge, but based on his incredibly accurate predictions, most were inclined to agree that he was telling the truth, and he did initially get a lot of support from the Reddit community as a result. Dolphins1925 would do the same thing again at next month's Extreme Rules pay-per-view, though this would see the first signs that perhaps he wasn't being entirely truthful with everything he was saying. While he correctly predicted every other match on the card, the show's main event between John Cena and Ryback ended up going at a no contest, and thus didn't end with the decisive Cena victory that our mystery person had predicted. This was pointed out by the other commentators. Some used it as evidence that he was faking after all, and had been just guessing, while others argued that there was no way he could have predicted so many results correctly, and that Cena did leave the match as the WWE Champion, so technically he was the winner in some respects. Dolphins1925 addressed this error in the thread, saying that he considered this as a mistake on his part, once again stressing that he was not an employee of the company but had knowledge coming directly from an insider source, and that there had been wrong information given to him. He reiterated that the leaks were supposed to get the attention of WWE, so they would clamp down on this kind of thing happening in the future, as it was ruining the show for many fans. Though there was of course the irony of him being the one to post these spoilers and ruin the show for those people himself, something which he neglected to comment on. It didn't matter anyway. By now word was starting to spread throughout the online wrestling community about this leaker and how accurate his spoilers had been. The user had asked for this specifically, challenging Reddit users to spread the word of what he was doing out on other forums and dirt sheets before the next pay-per-view payback happened. While most still supported him, there were now some rumblings that it was nothing more than a plant to try and discourage fans from visiting dirt sheet websites, while others still claimed it was a hoax. When the Payback pay-per-view rolled around, the mystery spoiler man once again posted the results of the show with 100% accuracy, even correctly predicting who would win each fall in the 2 out of 3 falls rematch between John Cena and Ryback. By now some people were actually starting to suggest using his predictions to make bets, as they seemed like such a sure thing. Betting is something we'll come back to a little later on in the video. By the time of Money in the Bank 2013 and another successful round of spoilers, Dolphins1925's profile was skyrocketing, and what he was doing was starting to get picked up on by media outlets such as Deadspin, Bleacher and the UK newspaper The Times, amongst several others. Allegedly, his actions were having the desired effect and were causing issues behind the scenes at WWE as they desperately tried to shut down the source of the leak. There was even comments made in the Deadspin article from someone inside WWE saying, "We may have a modern-day Nostradamus on our hands. We might have to monitor these posts in advance of our next pay-per-view to see how good he or she really is." The speculation continued to build on the identity of the spoiler. Some believed that he was a bookmaker who was using workplace information to predict the results, with others feeling that there was no way he could be an industry insider himself, possibly even a disgruntled wrestler on the roster. One of the more popular of these theories stated that Dolphins1925 was code for Dolphin Cider, and that it was actually the show-off Dolph Ziggler who was the leaker, though there was no concrete evidence to support this. Another particularly outlandish theory suggested that the leaker was in fact CM Punk, and that this was the company's elaborate way of setting up an angle between him and Triple H. All this had now ballooned to a point where it wasn't just affecting wrestling fans anymore. With all the correct predictions, it was around about this time that some bookmakers stopped taking bets on WWE events altogether due to the amount of money that they were losing. Soon after this, some suggested that the mystery spoiler had finally been discovered by WWE and that the leaks would come to an end. It wasn't to be though. When SummerSlam rolled around, Dolphins1925 returned, quelling rumors of his demise. He did, however, state that as a response to his leaks, WWE were now working with multiple different scripts and were changing results as recently as the day of the shows to try and throw him off. He would now post the results on his Twitter feed as he received them. An interesting note is that his Twitter account was actually briefly suspended following this, suggesting that there was some truth to the rumors that someone high up in WWE was trying to silence him. The following month's Battleground pay-per-view show, Dolphins1925 once again made an error when he said that Randy Orton would beat Daniel Bryan, though he did add the caveat that there was a twist to be expected. The match ended in a no contest, and while some argued that this constituted a twist or blamed last-minute changes from the company, this represented something of a turning point amongst a growing portion of the Reddit community who were increasingly under the belief that he didn't have any insider knowledge after all. Some suggesting that rather than being a bookmaker himself, he was just someone carefully looking at last-minute booking odds and based his spoilers on what he saw. Some used evidence that one of the predictions he had gotten wrong prior to this, the result of the John Cena vs Ryback match, would tie into what the booking odds at the time suggested. It should be noted here that Dolphins1925 would always post his spoilers mere minutes before the show started, lending further credence to this theory. The Hell in a Cell pay-per-view was next, and following an incorrect prediction that Damien Sandow would be cashing in his Money in the Bank contract on John Cena, a large quantity of Reddit users now started to turn on Dolphins1925 and claimed that he had been a fraud all along. The user argued that he was only working with the information he was given by his source. He considered this incorrect spoiler as a victory, as it meant the WWE were finally tightening up on security, though many believed that this was just him deflecting the issue. The floodgates had already opened up, however, and the backlash against him was now in full flow, with many stating that regardless of whether or not he was a fraud, he was ruining the shows by spoiling them ahead of time. Live show threads would banish spoilers from being posted, with a zero-tolerance policy in effect for anyone breaking those rules. His predictions would continue over the next few months, with him getting them mostly right, albeit a few incorrect ones here and there. Many now, however, seem to agree that he was a liar. Though he did have a few defenders left on Reddit, he would disappear from the forums by the end of 2013, only posting spoilers by his Twitter page after that. The final nail in the coffin for Dolphins1925 would come at WrestleMania 30, where amongst incorrect predictions made for several matches including Triple H vs Daniel Bryan and the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, he would fail to spoil the fact that The Undertaker would lose to Brock Lesnar, bringing his near quarter-century WrestleMania streak to an end. This caused the spoiler man to go on a Twitter rant, angrily blaming his source for the misinformation and claiming he could no longer trust him. These tweets included gems such as, "Evidently my source has been feeding me outright bullshit on the biggest stage. No words for this. And I contacted my source but I've received no response. As far as I'm concerned, he's a fraud. I will get to the bottom of this. The user did continue to post spoilers for WWE pay-per-views on his Twitter feed after this, though by then many had lost interest in him, and the whole thing waned to the point where his last tweet would come on June 1st, 2015 reading, "To anyone who is mad at me for not posting spoilers to Elimination Chamber, you can all go suck a melon." Since then, it's been nothing but radio silence from the mystery leaker, and no one to this day knows what became of him. And that's still the big question to this day. Who was Dolphins1925, and did he legitimately have insider information that he used to spoil WWE results? Was it really a case where the company had tried to shut him down by changing results at the last minute as means of discrediting him? Nowadays, most Redditors who remember the events disagree with this analysis, and the consensus seems to be that he was someone who was just very good at analyzing betting odds and had used this to try and gain some notoriety amongst the online wrestling community. He continues to be a controversial figure when his name is brought up on the subreddit, though even to this day he has a few true believers that remain in his defense. We'll probably never know the truth about if he was lying or telling the truth, sadly, and even worse than that, we'll probably never know who he was. His ultimate legacy may go down as being a precursor for other prominent Reddit leakers like Mets Fan Forever and Falcon Arrow, which just goes to show that he never really managed to achieve his ultimate goal of making WWE tighten up security on leaks. He will also be remembered as something of a cautionary tale on how quickly a community can turn on you if they don't believe you're being honest with them. We can only hope that one day he reveals himself to the world and does a tell-all shoot interview, but until then, we'll just have to continue speculating. There you have it, guys, the strange and fascinating tale of Dolphins1925, the man who correctly predicted WWE results for 2 years. Do you guys have any further information on this person? Be sure to leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.